2 in the morning, off Bimini, a Coast Guard cutter is chasing something across the black water at 40 knots. Behind him, nothing but foam and diesel smoke. Ahead of him, a shape doing 70 knots and pulling away. The driver has cash in the hull and a Rolex on the wrist, and the boat has that famous badge emblazoned on the transom. This is the world Don Aronow built. Today, we're diving into some of the most insane cigarette boats ever launched. The whole story starts here. 1962. Don Aronow, a retired construction millionaire from New Jersey, moves to Miami, meets naval architect Jim Wynn, and starts a boat company from scratch called Formula Marine on Northeast 188th Street in North Miami. The street would later be nicknamed Thunderboat Row. Their first boat was the 23-foot Formula, a deep-vee open cockpit runabout, sharp bow, flat rear, room for a small block V8 in the middle, and a hull shape descended from Ray Hunt's original deep-vee patent. It looked like an arrowhead, and it drove like one too. Aronow sold Formula Marine to Thunderbird Boats about a year later for what one associate called a ton of money, then went off to start another company, which he would do 6 times over the next 15 years, because Aronow's real business was not building boats. It was starting boat companies, selling them, and starting the next one, almost always on the same street. A construction millionaire from New Jersey, a naval architect from Miami, and a street that would soon become the most famous half-mile of asphalt in American boating. That was just the opening move. Aronow's second boat company was Donzi Marine, founded in 1964, sold to Teleflex Incorporated in mid-1965. Same street, same playbook, and the Sweet 16 was the flagship. 16 feet of pure deep-vee runabout, small enough to trailer, big enough to embarrass anything else on the water. It became the boat that celebrities and industrialists parked next to their yachts in Palm Beach, the one you drove out to the sandbar. Pretty much everyone in South Florida who mattered had a Donzi at some point in the 60s. Aronow probably had 6 of them himself, kept building them and selling them and starting new companies to build slightly different versions. Aronow was on his second brand in 2 years, and the whole industry was watching him closely. Whatever he built next was probably going to define the entire category. Magnum Marine came in 1966, founded with Elton Carey. Another plot on the same stretch of Thunderboat Row. The Magnum 27 was built specifically for offshore racing, and in 1967, it won Aronow his first World Offshore Championship. Twin engines, deep-vee hull with a slightly harder chine than the Formula, composite construction that was still novel for a raceboat. The Magnum 27 was followed by the Magnum 35. Both boats went on to win world championships in the open class. Aronow sold Magnum to Apache in 1968 for a small fortune, and immediately signed a strict non-compete clause that meant he was not allowed to build boats, which for anyone else would have ended the story. For Aronow, it was more of a suggestion. A world championship, a sale to a photocopy company, and a non-compete clause that Aronow had absolutely no intention of respecting. Which brings us to the boat that started an entire underground culture. Because Aronow could not build boats under his own name after the Apache sale, he used a friend's name instead. Elton Carey lent his identity, and in Elton Carey's Miami Beach facility, Aronow started building what he called the cigarette, named after a Prohibition-era rum runner's launch of the same name from the 1920s. The first 2 cigarette models were the 28 and the 32. Deep-vee hulls, twin stern-drive V8s, cockpits so simple they were basically a steering wheel and 2 seats, and speeds that nothing else on the water could match. In 1969, Aronow won a second world championship in a boat called the Cigarette. That championship boat gave the entire brand its name, and by 1970, the non-compete clause had expired, and Aronow was building cigarettes openly as cigarette racing team. Every serious offshore racer in America wanted one. And so, it turned out, did every serious drug smuggler. A boat named after a Prohibition-era rum runner, a world championship, and a customer list that was quietly splitting into two groups: racers on one side, smugglers on the other. One boat serving two very different customer bases. The Cafe Racer was Aronow's personal favorite, a 35-foot cigarette with a slightly softer ride than the Racing 35, and a beautiful set of full lines from bow to transom. Twin big block McCruiser stern drives, producing something in the region of 550 horsepower each, top end north of 80 miles an hour, depending on trim. Cafe racers were the boat celebrities and business owners kept in South Florida marinas, not to race, just to look at, and occasionally to take out for a run to Bimini for lunch, which took about 90 minutes, and 200 gallons of high-octane fuel each way. That was the sort of thing cigarette owners did on Saturdays. Original cafe racers now trade for around $250,000 on the vintage boat market, provided you can find one that has not been beaten into a matchstick by 20 years of poker running. The gentleman's cigarette, meant for lunch, runs to Bimini rather than winning trophies. But even the gentleman's version was a 200-gallon Saturday afternoon. Not everyone wanted that scale. At the smallest end of the range sat the 20-foot cigarette, built in modest numbers in the mid-1980s, small enough to trailer behind a normal pickup truck, cheap enough that a dentist could actually afford one, powered by a single big block McCruiser, and still capable of a 60-mile-an-hour top end, which for a 20-foot open runabout was properly serious. The 20 was the entry-level cigarette, meant for the enthusiast who wanted the badge but did not want to remortgage the house to buy the fuel. Original examples are rare, because most of them got sold to inexperienced owners who quickly learned that a boat this powerful in this short a hull wanted very close attention to trim and throttle at all times. Some ended up wrapped around channel markers, but the ones that survived are beloved little pocket rockets, small enough to trailer, fast enough to hurt yourself, which is basically the whole cigarette philosophy scaled down. But the definitive cigarette silhouette was neither the smallest nor the largest. It was the boat that would end up on every poster in every teenager's bedroom in Florida. The Top Gun 38 was designed in 1979 by Aronow and offshore racer Jerry Jacoby. Jacoby wanted a cigarette that was longer than the standard 35, but with the classic cigarette beam. So Aronow put a 3-foot block into the 39-foot mold and fitted it to the 35-foot deck. The result was a 37.6-foot hybrid called Ajax Hawk. That boat won Jacoby the 1981 World Championship in Key West, and the design became the Top Gun, which has been in production for over 4 decades, longer than any other cigarette model. The current version is powered by twin Mercury Racing V8s, cruises at 50 miles an hour, tops out around 90, and still uses the fundamental hull shape Aronow drew in 1979. Every serious poker run has a Top Gun in it. Every South Florida marina has 3 of them. The Top Gun is the definitive cigarette silhouette and one of the great American boat designs of the 20th century. 40-plus years of continuous production. Every poker run, every marina, the definitive silhouette. But before the Top Gun became a lifestyle statement, its cousin was starring on the biggest cop show in television history. Miami Vice premiered on NBC in September 1984. The show needed a fast boat for the character of Sonny Crockett. Writer-director Michael Mann had banned earth-tone colors on set, so they went with a blue and white 1984 Chris Craft Stinger 390X, not technically a cigarette, but part of the same Miami offshore V-bottom world. Twin 400 horsepower McCruiser stern drives, 60 miles an hour flat out. Chris Craft supplied 3 of them for filming, each with slightly different logo placement so directors could shoot from different angles. The Stinger dominated season 1, and then things got awkward because scripts kept mislabeling the boat as a cigarette, which was cigarette racing team's actual trademark, and Chris Craft got increasingly annoyed. So at the end of season 1, they pressured Universal to buy the boats rather than lease them. Universal walked, and the Stinger was replaced, which turned out to be the greatest mistake in Chris Craft's history. A season of primetime television. increasingly frustrated Chris Craft executives, and a decision to walk away from the deal at exactly the wrong moment. Whatever replaced the Stinger was about to become the most famous powerboat in television history. Wellcraft in Sarasota had originally turned down Universal's offer to supply boats for Miami Vice Season 1, the Decker turning down the Beatles' moment of American boating. When Chris Craft walked away from Season 2, Wellcraft got the phone call again. This time, they said yes. The Scarab 38 KV was based on Larry Smith's Karma racing hull. That was the hull Betty Cook had won world championships in. K and KV paid homage to Karma. V was for Vice, silver, blue, and black paint scheme. Twin 400 horsepower Mercruisers, and Sonny Crockett's Ray-Ban Wayfarers in the driver's seat. Between 1985 and 1990, Wellcraft built about 103 Scarab 38 KVs for public sale. 33 of them wore the special Miami Vice Edition badging. Don Johnson himself received an exact replica of his hero boat from Wellcraft. The rest went to people who wanted to be Sonny Crockett for the weekend. Original examples now trade for around $150,000-ish when you can find one. 103 boats, 33 official Vice editions, a cultural moment that no other powerboat has ever matched. But while Sonny Crockett was fictionally chasing smugglers on television, Ben Kramer was a Florida offshore racer, also a marijuana smuggler on an industrial scale. In 1982, he bought a 41-foot mold from Aronow and started Apache Powerboats in Hollywood, Florida. The first boat off the line was called Warpath. Kramer eventually stretched the hull to 47 feet, fitted 3 Mercruiser stern drives, and used the Apaches to win the American Powerboat Association Open Class title in 1986. Federal prosecutors would allege that between 1983 and 1986, Kramer used Apaches to run more than 500,000 pounds of marijuana into the United States. He was arrested at a Miami race event in 1987, sentenced to life in prison as a drug super kingpin. In 1989, he attempted a helicopter escape from federal prison. That failed. In 1996, he pleaded no contest to the murder of Don Aronow, received a 19-year manslaughter sentence to run concurrently with his life term. The Apaches themselves are still highly collectible. Restored examples fetch 6 figures at auction. Marijuana smuggling on an industrial scale, a world championship, and a 19-year manslaughter sentence for the murder of the man who taught him. Which brings us to the boat design that took offshore racing away from cigarette entirely. On calm water, Reggie Fountain founded Fountain Powerboats in Washington, North Carolina in 1979. 2-time Formula One world champion, very good at making noise, even better at making V-bottoms go fast. In 1991, Fountain took his 47-foot V-bottom to a world speed record of 114 miles per hour, triple engines. In New Orleans in 1990, he took the same 47-footer to Lake Pontchartrain and beat 4-engine catamarans owned by Chuck Norris and Don Johnson in a V-bottom in flat water where cats should have destroyed him. On camera, Fountain reportedly shouted, "Bye-bye, movie star," as he passed Don Johnson's Team USA. That clip played at boat shows around the world for a decade. The 47 Lightning has been Fountain's flagship on and off for 30-plus years. Its current version runs twin Mercury Racing 1350 engines, hits 120 miles an hour on trial runs, and starts at around $1.2 million. Fountain filed for bankruptcy twice, restructured, left the company he founded. That is what happens when you win 201 races and lose only 100 of them. 2-time world champion, beat Chuck Norris and Don Johnson in a V-bottom, set a 114-mile-an-hour speed record, bankrupt twice. Reggie Fountain was a proper piece of work, but the modern era of cigarettes was about to move on to something even more extreme. The Marauder was cigarettes' modern flagship for most of the 2010s. 50 feet of carbon fiber and Kevlar-reinforced hull, twin Mercury Racing 1550, stern drives producing 3,100 combined horsepower, top speed north of 130 miles an hour, a price tag starting at $750,000 new, and an aesthetic that basically said, "This is a supercar that also floats." Every serious modern cigarette owner has driven a Marauder, or wants to, or is about to. The Marauder is what the Top Gun evolved into once you added modern composites, computer-controlled engine management, and a paint job that costs more than most family cars. A direct descendant of Aronow's 1969 Cigarette 28. 10 times the horsepower, 10 times the price, 3,100 combined horsepower, 130 miles an hour, $750,000. Modern cigarettes were now supercar territory expensive, but even that number was about to look modest. In February 2018, Cigarette Racing unveiled the 515 Project 1 at the Miami International Boat Show, named for its length, 51.5 feet. The result of an 11-year design collaboration with Mercedes-AMG, inspired by the Mercedes-AMG Project 1 hypercar, twin staggered Mercury Racing. 1550 engines putting out 3,100 horsepower, top speed of 140 miles an hour, full carbon fiber and Kevlar construction, air intakes 7 feet long and 14 inches wide, each weighing just over 4 pounds, interior trimmed in Dynamica and exposed weave carbon fiber. Only 6 were built in the first year of production. Price tag, approximately $2 million per boat, which sounds ridiculous until you realize the buyer is the same person buying an AMG Project 1 hypercar, which itself cost about $2.7 million. So relatively speaking, the boat was a bargain. This is what cigarette racing looked like 50 years after Don Aronow started it in a friend's borrowed factory in Miami Beach. $2 million, 51.5 feet, 3,100 horsepower, 6 built, and a badge that spelled Mercedes as often as it spelled cigarette. But the wildest modern cigarette was neither the biggest nor the most expensive. Unveiled in 2021, the 13th Cigarette Mercedes-AMG collaboration, named the 41-foot Nighthawk AMG Black Series and inspired by the Mercedes-AMG GT Black Series supercar. But its most notable feature was on the transom, not the paint job, not the interior, but 5 4.6-litre Mercury Racing 450R outboard motors, 2,250 combined horsepower, rather than stern drives, all coordinated by an advanced shadowing throttle system so the captain could control all 5 as one. Top speed 90 miles per hour. The 41 Nighthawk hull as a base sells for around $800,000. Each of those 5 outboards cost close to $50,000 new. So the transom alone was worth $250,000 in engines. The AMG Black Series version was one of one, bespoke, sold to a private collector whose identity Cigarette will not disclose, which is the modern equivalent of the cash-in-a-suitcase transactions Aronow used to do on Thunderboat Row, just with more paperwork. 5 outboards, 2,250 horsepower, $250,000 just for the engines on the transom. 1 built, private collector, names withheld. Modern cigarette buyers keep their heads down for reasons Don Aronow would have absolutely understood. But the story ends where it began. On Thunderboat Row, Don Aronow's final boat company was USA Racing Team. Founded in the early 1980s, still on Thunderboat Row, the company built high-performance V-bottoms and eventually developed the Blue Thunder concept for the United States Customs Service to run down drug smugglers, which is where the story gets tangled, because Ben Kramer had bought USA Racing from Aronow, but Kramer's drug conviction meant the US government could not do business with him. Aronow had to buy USA Racing back from Kramer to keep the customs contract. Kramer lost out on a substantial payday. On February 3rd, 1987, Aronow was gunned down in his Mercedes on Northeast 188th Street. Multiple shots from a passing blue Lincoln. He died at 59 years old. 9 years later, Kramer pleaded no contest to manslaughter, but questions remain about whether Colombians actually ordered the hit, and Kramer just took the fall. Aronow's final personal cigarette, a modified 39-footer with heavy custom modifications, was recovered from his estate. It occasionally appears at vintage powerboat events, where a small crowd always forms around it, because that boat represents the last piece of the man who built an entire American subculture from scratch. If this got you thinking, go watch our deep dive on 15 most insane smuggling boats ever to outrun the law. And tell us, which of these would you actually take out to Bimini? Subscribe for more like this. Thanks for hanging out.